I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, can we have the roll call?
Thank you, Dave.
Also, sidebar conversation. All right. Roberts.
I'm here.
Cooper. Ferguson. Here. Ollie. Here. I know Mr. Ginelli's here. Johnston. Here.
Don't be shy.
Correct.
Come on in.
Here. Molinaro.
Kathy's absent.
Ralph.
Present.
And Ms. Robinson.
We have a quorum. The quorum is reached. We've had no recognitions tonight other than, wow, what's going on? This is pretty amazing. Usually there's more of us than there are you. So, but I see everybody's here to speak. Is there school that's represented here tonight that I'm missing? Are there teachers or anybody from our schools besides Mr.
We're having a hard time hearing you.
Is there anybody here representing a particular school? Usually we have the faculty of a school come and present, but is there any here particularly looking to do that tonight? Our employees?
Not you guys.
Sorry.
You're good. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, I'll speak. Can you hear me now? No? Oh, you have to press?
Yeah,
Or
turn it on.
push talking,
Oh, okay.
or live.
Oh, just a lot. Now you can't talk privately. Now can you hear me? Everybody in the back. Okay? Okay, good. Thank you. If not, if somebody just go, Eileen, speak up. Okay? Sorry. All right. Public participation. The board welcomes. Before the starting of the board meeting, before the starting of the board meeting, those wishing to address the board in public session, did you sign up? Did everybody sign up? I'm here to do that. All right. The board welcomes participation and asks that the speakers please limit comments to 3 minutes. Speakers may offer subjective comments of school operations and programs that concern them. The board will not permit any expression of personal complaints or defamatory comments about Board of Education personnel and students, nor against any person connected with the Danbury Public School System. I'd like to start the public participation, please, with Noel Ashford. Noel? Right there. Is there? Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry. My name is Noel Ashford. We own the company Lifetime Excursions LLC, which is organising one of the international trips for Danbury High School. I'm obviously aware, as you all are, of what's going on in the world today, but just wanted to give you a few facts of what we're doing as a company to try and ensure everybody's safety. We will never state that we can guarantee anybody's safety, because with everything going on in the world, that is just impossible. We are the only company that we are aware of in America that include a fully comprehensive insurance policy with every single trip. We have forwarded that to members of the board to see what is covered. With regards to this trip, we've already invested, the parents have already invested, and we've spent over $73,000, which involve contracts with 4 different airlines, hotels, tour companies, museums, etc., etc. The insurance policy that you have been supplied covers almost everything. The only thing it doesn't cover is a cancel for any reason. With regards to terrorism, God forbid, there is a stipulation. Again, I don't know if everybody's seen a copy of the policy, so I'll just read it very, very quickly. I know I've only got 3 minutes. With regards to terrorists, it says, any terrorist act which occurs in your departure city or in a city which is a scheduled destination. If a terrorist act occurs within 30 days of our scheduled departure date, everyone is covered completely for the trip. Everyone will receive a full refund. So the US government are working on a 30-day period with regards to insurance policies. Everybody has an insurance policy. We are also members of the STEP program with the US government. That is a program so the government knows exactly where every single student is at every single moment of our trip. We give a full itinerary of all the flights, all of the hotels, every single museum visit, every single restaurant we go to. We get notified automatically if there's any warnings anywhere with regards to anything. With regards to alerts and warnings, there's been 23 alerts and warnings, travel warnings in the last 2 years. We have 23 groups going in April. 7 of those are going to Paris, which obviously seems a major concern with some schools. We have one group cancel, but the other 22 groups are still going ahead with their trip. With regards to the large investment and work, the large investment put in by the parents and the work by the students, I'm asking the board to approve this trip. We have and will do everything possible should any emergency arise. We have everything in place, but at the end of the day, we are aware we cannot guarantee anybody's safety. We can't guarantee anybody's safety in Danbury or Newbury.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Jeff, I can't read your last name. I'm sorry.
Jake Bowski.
There you go.
That's how I know it's me.
Sorry.
It's quite all right. Thank you for the time. I'd like to start off with a quote. The quote is, "We are Americans, we don't walk around terrified." That quote is from then Secretary of State Colin Powell, stated in a press briefing on 12 September 2001, discussing the terrorist attacks that killed nearly 3,000 people. The vast majority, about 2,600, merely 66 miles from here in Lower Manhattan. Since that time, there have been over 70,000 terrorist attacks worldwide. Only 3% have occurred in Europe. Granted, Paris in particular has had a series of high-profile attacks, but look at this logically. The average human being has a 17,600 times greater chance of dying from heart disease, 12,571 times chance to die from cancer, and a 1,080 times greater chance to die in a vehicular accident versus terrorism. Also remember, France is the nation that stood by the U.S. when we were a group of insurrectionists, maybe even called the terrorists of their day, when the North American colonies revolted against King and country of Mother England. In modern times, the U.S. leads the world in rampage shootings by a large margin, both in numbers of fatalities and incidents. Between 2000 and 2014, there have been 166 mass shootings, including terrorist and merely criminal acts worldwide. 133 of those shootings have occurred in the U.S. I think it's safe to say that in this room, it's a very sobering point for all of us. It's easy to see the foreign threats and the dramatic ones as they are displayed in the media. The world can rally around them to see them easily, but it's also plain to see that the risk is around us at all times. It's the tolerance to risk, the probability of risk, and the severity of risk that needs to be addressed. I'm the father of 3 children. 2 of them will be participating on this class trip to Paris and other locations. I can assure you, I have a deep emotional connection when it comes to my children and family overall. I don't hide behind the statistics, but they do help me apply some logic and facts behind the decision to continue to support this trip. I have been lucky to have had a series of jobs that have taken me all over this planet on numerous occasions. I have conducted business, but more importantly, I was able to experience other places and other cultures. I saw history and locations that I previously only read about in textbooks. I am a richer person for it and wish I had the opportunity to have these experiences at a younger age. Being able to do that would have given me a chance to experience independence before attending college and serving in the military. That could be so vital to transitioning to life away from home. I want my children to have these experiences. This is truly learning. I would never gamble with my children or thumb my nose at the statistics, a portion of which I have cited above. However, the numbers, odds if you may call them, are on the side of safe passage. Decisions need to be made with all available information, not emotions. A simple real-time example is the Powerball lottery. I will not play it. The odds are astronomical. 1 in 438 million that I will not win it. It cannot be guaranteed that I won't win it, but I sure as heck will take the odds that I'm better off with that dollar in my pocket. I extend the same to all of you in this room who have a ticket or two. I surely cannot guarantee that you will or will not win, but the odds, the probability, are so overwhelmingly low that it can be said, I'm quite sure you will not win. If you do, that's great. You could say, I told you so at your press conference, and I will laugh along with you. The point being that we cannot have any guarantees in life. Rather, we reduce risk, travel to secure areas. Is there any more place more secure now than Paris or France in general? In general, be aware of our actions and possible consequences. Again, Colin Powell said it in those dark days, we don't walk around terrified. I firmly believe these trips should continue, not only in these specific trips, but all class trips, great and small. As of my own counterpoint, though, let's not fool ourselves. I have served on many boards of directors or worked with many community organizations in Danbury and other than Danbury. As a collective, we are concerned about mitigating organizational risk and exposure to risk for our organizations. The article published yesterday in the Danbury News-Times gave the impression that the decision would be to suspend trips, and frankly speaking, it's well within the scope of this board to do that. As Newton's third law states, though, for every reaction there is an opposite reaction. These trips may be canceled, but there is a financial obligation to us, to the tune of $3,000 for each participant, that we've already invested in our children's education. Make no mistake, this trip will be fun, and it will be wondrous. But as parents, I'm investing as an investment in their education. I can't sit idly by and watch my investment just evaporate. It is a very significant amount of personal money, cash, that I can't afford to lose. Again, each and every decision that we make, great and small, as individuals or as a collective, come with consequences and do need to be addressed. In the case of this decision before you tonight, the severe financial penalty must figure into the decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I have another challenge. Michael Herrera. Am I close? Yes.
I'd like to thank the board for their time. I want to start off by saying when I first heard about this opportunity to go to France, Morocco, and Spain, I was delighted because, one, I've never really been out of the country. I mean, I've been to Dominican Republic when I was a younger child, but I don't really remember much of it. So when I heard about this program that they're doing, I instantly went to my parents, I spoke to them about it, and we made the commitment to pay for this trip. As we all know, what happened in France is something that's unforgettable. Many compare it to the attacks on 9/11, but that still doesn't stop me from wanting to go on to this trip. Missing out on this trip means missing on opportunities. When I go to college, I plan on studying international business, and I feel that going on this trip will open my eyes, it will broaden my networking, and it will help me see what I'll be doing in my future. France is known for its culture, it's known for its food, it's also known as one of the safer countries in the world. We can't just let an attack like this let us live in shame. Life in fear is no life to live. If we let these terrorists get into our minds, then we're just playing into their own game.
Thank you. Thank you. Sandy? Chelsea?
Hello, I'm Sandy Shaleski. Yes, I'm a Danbury resident. I'm a retired teacher, now working full-time at Danbury High School, and I stand here, or sit here tonight, to voice my strong opinion in favor of allowing the planned Danbury High School spring trip to Europe. I'm scheduled to take part in that trip, and I paid $3,400 in advance, but that's not my real reason for being here. I would not like to lose that money, but more important, I think this trip is very special. I feel compelled to speak because I've chaperoned student trips within the U.S. as well as in Europe. By the way, the sample travel waiver that was given to you at our December meeting was provided by my daughter, who's a lawyer and a professor at Siena College. They use these waivers on all the trips that she takes students on. So that was not something, that was worth showing. In my experience in traveling, the guides are professional. They're well equipped to keep students traveling as safely as possible, avoiding questionable neighborhoods, teaching them, good travel manners. I'm fortunate in that I've been able to travel to Europe at least once a year. The presence of heavily armed guards in airports, train stations, and on city streets is at first a bit frightening, but they do provide a definite sense of safety. In one instance, I was near student riots in Athens where tear gas was necessary, but the riot police were professional and we never felt threatened. I've recently traveled in Israel where there's always a threat of violence, but never felt concerned thanks to the experienced guides who know how to avoid troubled areas. Terrorist threats are not going away. They've been around for many years and they'll be probably around long after we're gone. There's always some kind of danger, even in and around Danbury. But being aware of your surroundings and following instructions is sound advice, always. Also, for some students signed up to go on this trip, it is their first chance to travel to Europe, an experience they will never forget. I am definitely in favor of proceeding with our plans to travel to Europe in April. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have this month. That's the I can't read the first name. Is it Sherry? Sharon? Oh, wait. All right, I'll move on to the next person. It's all right, Annie. I'll wait.
I'm sorry.
Open the door for them. It's okay. Take your time. It's okay.
I apologize.
It's really not the Academy Awards. You can take your time.
Hello. Sorry for
having to wait. My name is Meredith Ferris, and my daughter is a student at AIS. I wrote an email, a letter, and I wanted to just read it. Sorry. Our daughter is currently a kindergartner at Academy of International Studies in Danbury, Connecticut. She is blossoming into a wonderful, responsible citizen of this world. She's learning Spanish. She can almost read an entire book at her grade level. And with a little extra support and guidance from her wonderful teachers, she can count to 100 and is now writing in a journal. Gotta catch my breath, sorry. We've gotten to know the teachers and faculty and enjoy going to events at the school. My son, who is almost 3, is excited when he visits the school. Every time we leave, he asks, "This is my school too, when I'm a big boy." Each morning, when you pull up to the curb at drop-off, you're greeted by happy faces, and on some days, Dr. Nataski herself is outside. Our daughter doesn't walk, she runs into school. We want this for our son. We want this school to know our family. We want this for other siblings of enrolled students. We want this sense of community, and for him to be able to be in the same school as his sister. To value the importance of family in our schools by disallowing sibling preference in its own district only is contrary to the mission of the school. Furthermore, splitting families between schools weakens the homeschool bond. My husband and I both work full-time outside the home. The challenge for us as well as other parents to get children to 2 different schools, volunteer, attend school functions, and become involved and supportive would be an almost impossible task, especially when the children are at such a young age. When we put through an application for AIS, for our daughter, it was for many reasons. One, we had heard about the sense of family and community that this school is known for, but the reason that stood out most of all was the school's mission statement. In part, the statement reads, "Our school community creates a supportive climate where students practice collaborative problem solving and understand each other's perspectives while valuing and respecting diversity. Global citizenship begins with responsible citizenship in one's own world. Removing sibling preference is an irresponsible decision, grossly negligent, and goes against the very mission statement of the school. We believe that you will be doing the students and families that will be impacted by this decision a huge disservice." Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Lorraine Memo. Again, I'm going to apologize if I mispronounce anybody's name.
My name is Lorraine Amro, and I have a son attending Danbury High School. He's a freshman, and he is planning on attending the spring trip to Germany. I've traveled over 32 different countries in my lifetime, and he's extremely excited about also traveling to Germany with the school trip. We live in a world with terrorists and tragedy. Everybody knows this. It's also right here. It's not only overseas. It's right here. It's right around us. It's in New York. It's in Paris. It's in our backyard. It's in Sandy Hook. We need to take precaution each and every day. We need to take precaution every minute. We need to teach our children what to do. We need to teach them all the time in our schools. We need to prevent and teach them when they walk out the door. We need to teach them in our own home as we travel, when they go to the movies. We cannot escape this. I believe that they should go on with the EF tour groups because I believe that the EF tour groups know what to do in extreme precautions and that they believe that they will keep everyone safe. I don't believe that we can keep our children in cocoons, just like when we let our children out the door to attend Danbury High School. I believe that every teacher, every faculty member there do their best to keep our children safe. On another note, I have an older son that attends college that basically enjoyed the trips at Danbury High School. At that time, we had terrorists, and we had a lot of things going on, and we allowed the children to go to Spain. We allowed them to have international trips, and they came home safe. We had faith in the EF tour groups at that time. Nothing has changed from then until now. We had faith in them, and I don't believe that we should not have faith in them at this point in time. I just believe that we have to teach our children and have faith in the adults that basically are taking care of our children, just like we have faith in the faculty and the teachers. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Patricia.
Villela.
I'm not doing it.
Good evening, and thank you for listening to me as well. I have to agree with everybody that spoke before me. I've made so many trips all over the world, most recently to China. You don't hear too much happening there, but I have been with my daughter in 2012 in France and Italy, and I have family in France. I have a sister in France, a brother in France. And as Mr. Jakubowski said, the French are our allies. We have to support them. We can't just, cower and hide from what's going on in the world. We have to stand up to these terrorists and not be afraid. And I think the trip should go on as well, only because it happens here. We just saw it happen here not too long ago. And it's going to be life from here on in. I don't think it's going to be any different. And it could happen to us here. So I think the trip should still go on.
Thank you. I have Nicole. Nicole?
Hi.
Hi, I'm sorry I didn't see you.
That's okay. Good evening. I don't have anything formal written, and I understand the general consensus is everyone is in favor of the trip. I have,
No, I need to hear you. That's it.
sorry, my name is Nicole Crudup. I have a daughter that is a junior at Danbury High School. I understand the general consensus is most parents are in favor. It's my understanding, I spoke with Dr. Sell, that 2 parents have reached out with concern. Regardless of the board's decision, my daughter will not be attending. I don't teach her to be fearful. However, I believe with everything that's going on in the world today, it's not the time. So regardless of your decision tonight, my daughter will not be attending.
Thank you.
evening.
Take the other two. Excuse me. Oh,
Thank you.
Yes, I'm actually representing my wife who couldn't make it tonight, but more importantly, a group of all concerned parents about the AIS sibling preference removal. I'm just going to read something that she prepared. Good evening, Board of Ed Chairperson and members of the board. First, let me congratulate each of you on your recent appointments and welcome new members to the board. As many of you are aware, since the fall of 2015, we are as members of the inter-district community for AIS. I've visited Board of Ed sessions with hopes to gain support for revisiting the board decision to eliminate sibling preference for Danbury residents. Let me update you, new members, that surrounding towns such as Reading, Richfield, Newtown, Bethel, Brookfield, etc. will retain their privileges for their children. Our purpose this evening is to once again seek your support in obtaining a formal session to review the facts behind this decision and ultimately gain a session to revisit this decision. May we be allowed to approach the bench to provide you with a copy of packet prepared by the members of the AIS PTO, concerned friends, parents, and staff. The packet you have been provided, or will be provided, contains the following: a summary of key concerns surrounding this decision, such as social impact on the school of its students, destruction of the school's environment, emergency evacuation procedure risks, lower parent and family time and financial support, higher school costs resulting from reduced volunteerism, impact on families with children with disabilities, impact on single-parent households with one person capable of pickup and drop-offs. Please consider that according to the National Center on Health and Statistics, as published in the New York Times, more than 40% of American babies are now born to unmarried women. Summary of the impact to racial imbalance statistics, testimonials from concerned parents in the inter-districts community, signed petition from various members of the community. As you review the package, please pay close attention to the three key considerations. First, the fact that other districts have made the decision to reverse sibling preference and reverted to the former after facing the negative impacts of this decision. A key example is in the town of Bridgeport, where 3 districts recently reverted to the sibling preference policy. Details of supporters and school names are in the packet. Second, this decision stands to jeopardize the current standing of AIS in its current format as Connecticut Outstanding School of the Year. We wonder why change a formula that has proved to be successful. Third, you should consider the view of community members as they are informed that only DPS is excluded from the sibling preference policy. As a parent said, and I quote, "Why was the town with the lowest income per household and with the highest minority population the only one excluded?" As PTO members went around getting petition signatures, we were surprised to see just how many parents were against this and how many even outside DPS were willing to assist and support reversing this decision. One mom in Reading in particular stunned me as she was willing to join Danbury residents because although it did not impact her immediate family, she was concerned of how it would change the fabric of the school.
Sir, your time is up. I'm terribly sorry. Is all this information in the packet?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you for your time.
You got to.
Do you want to leave
You want to leave a copy of your speech?
or your statement?
Yes, we
Thank
can
you.
provide you this.
Thank you. Okay, hi, thank you. Hi, you are,
Rachel Chalesky.
I'm sorry. Richard. Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm here before you as a concerned parent, a co-president of the AIS PTO, and on behalf of the entire AIS community. As I mentioned at the October 14th meeting, I began a petition against the vote to eliminate sibling preference for Danbury residents at AIS. In submitting this to you today, I hope that you will consider the decision that was made on September 9th and to reinstate sibling preference based on facts, reason, and recommendations made by school and town leadership. Back in the fall, I chose not to circulate this petition online or through social media, where it would not really mean anything aside from numbers. Each signature on this petition, which currently is about 300, represents a personal, one-on-one conversation that took place within our community. As an involved parent and mom of 2 very active children, I have spoken to many other parents and community members of AIS, other Danbury schools, and surrounding towns. During fall baseball season, I joined in a conversation that was spurred by the middle school lottery. They were parents discussing the futures of their children currently at Millridge Primary. The conversation naturally led to AIS, but it also led to a much broader discussion of how the school system functions, about policy and budget, and then compared to others around the world. They were generally pleased to see someone take an active role in the community, and they signed my petition. In an email that I wrote back to the board back in June, I told the story of my neighbor whose 2 older children went to King Street, and she did not want to apply her 3rd child to AIS because she did not want to have to make that decision if he was accepted. She wanted her younger child to have the same experiences as her older ones. Likewise, the teachers at King Street were eagerly awaiting the last member of this family, and she also signed. I was sought out by a mom who just applied for a kindergarten spot for her child. She understands how this will affect her chances of being accepted, yet she would rather know it comes with sibling preference for her 2nd child, and she signed. Parents of children at AIS from surrounding towns, Bethel, Brookfield, New Fairfield, New Milford, Newtown, Reading, Southbury, and Woodbury all signed. They understand the effect this change will have on the school, and they do not want to be next. For me personally, this exercise has deepened the love and pride I have for the city of Danbury and its greater community because of the support I have received. A change like this, to single out Danbury among other towns, is degrading in a struggle to rise above a time-old reputation. For those who are not lucky and do not win the lottery, their voice will always speak louder because of their numbers and the emotion that drives it. I have asked this before, but what is fair? Why is it okay to take away from one group of people to hand it over to the other, when if they were given the choice, they would refuse it anyway? AIS parents have been present since the beginning and at every stage of conversation about this issue, at workshops, advisory meetings, and board meetings, with facts, yet it seems our voice does not matter. Who do we turn to for support? Please support our families. And may I submit this?
Okay. We have 3 more speakers, just so I don't have to interrupt anybody because that really feels me to interrupt somebody. It's a 3 minutes each, period. So I'm very, very sorry. All right, Meredith. Harris. Oops. You won already? I won already, yeah. She did? Okay. Jennifer Brigman?
Good evening. I'm a mother of a DHS student looking to go on a DHS trip to Spain, France, and Morocco.
Excuse me, please. My board is talking at the same time as you. It's hard for me to hear.
It's very short.
Please, thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. I did not prepare anything. I figured it better to speak freely. I have a child who's planning on sending to the DHS international trip to Morocco, Spain, and France in April. When we planned that, we did it with wanting to give her every opportunity, and we are very concerned about what's going on. Unfortunately, as has been said this evening, we've been affected in some way or another by the tragedies here, internationally, across the country. When we make these decisions to provide opportunities for our children, we should do it with knowledge and planning and what is in their best interest. I would not knowingly send my child into something that would harm her. making a decision out of fear is the wrong decision. And I would welcome the opportunity to continue to send her on this trip, because it's irreplaceable what she will learn. And having people directly involved in that France-Racing event, as well as in the events in our own backyard the last few years, we have taught our children to educate yourselves, be prepared, be aware of what's around you, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to experience opportunities. And I would hope that the board would consider that when you're making this decision.
Thank you very much. Last speaker is AIS, and it's is it Tricia Robinson? In fact, I'm sorry.
Trisha Robinson, you've seen me 5 times.
Oh my God. Yes, I have.
That's okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to listen to all of us tonight. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Trisha Robinson, a parent at AIS. I spoke a little bit in the spring about my feelings about sibling preference and how it is beneficial to the entire school. The first being that, being from Indiana, our magnet schools were not based upon a random lottery. They were based upon actually applying and getting in based upon your credentials. I did ballet 2 hours a day. I took extra classes based upon my intellectual abilities. It was never based upon some random lottery about how I got in. So me and my family find it kind of strange that there is a lottery, and it is such a highly sought after thing that we don't take what's working really, really, really well in an award-winning school and duplicate it everywhere else. It really can't cost that much money to allow Spanish at every school, which is really the only reason why I applied 3 years ago. I sent previous emails with experts stating that schools perform better when families are together. Our principal, Dr. Natowski, has received several awards, specifically recognizing the community she's built at the school. She stated that eliminating the sibling policy would be detrimental to her school. Detrimental. So the vote that happened in September really felt like a slap in the face. It was so hard to see my principal so upset because she felt that members didn't believe and trust in her leadership that she had built over the last 9 years at that school. To keep the state and local funding, I believe we receive around $2.2 million because we allow the outer districts to have 35% of the school. We cannot risk losing that money. We need that $2.2 million. We need those residents from other districts supporting our school. Which is why I believe we didn't eliminate the sibling policy for them. I'm pretty sure that other districts would be pretty disappointed and might pull their students out if we eliminated the sibling policy. Our experts, our principal, and the understanding of what fairness means, fairness to families that are already together, ripping them apart, to an individual child who doesn't really understand what the school is. I really believe we need to spend more time and money duplicating our efforts. If we have 400 students applying as a kindergartner to get in to 40 spots, what is that telling us? Why does everybody want to come to the school? Again, not being from Connecticut, not really knowing much about the magnet school before I got in, I only applied because of Spanish and international schools. My children are half Asian. I really think it's not that difficult to implement Spanish and Asian studies. Take a look at what Dr. Natowski is doing great. Transform that to other schools. Taking something that's working really well and doing something that the principal has stated will be detrimental to the school doesn't serve anybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to? Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Anyone in the first row, second row, third row, fourth row? Anybody at all? Seeing none, we're going to move forward. Thank you. To the consent calendar. David, would you like to read?
That the Board of Education approve the items on the consent calendar, Exhibit 16-1 through 16-6, as recommended.
Who seconded? Al? there's
speak
anything.
up, please? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We're showing on our agenda that there should be a representative here from Broadview. Broadview Middle School. Okay, seeing none, that's okay, we'll move on. We'll come next time. Our student representatives are next. Danbury High School has, hi.
Hello, my name is Irene Reichel. Okay, so in celebration of Martin Luther King, we have a special assembly tomorrow for juniors and seniors. We are doing a Zuzu African dance assembly.
Excellent.
The movement music will be January 28th at 7 p.m. On January 20th, we have our National Art Honor Society induction ceremony at 7 o'clock. On January 19th, we have the National Social Studies Society Honor Society induction. The first class is established at DHS. Our boys basketball team and wrestling team are undefeated. Both indoor track teams competed at Dartmouth this past weekend and are competing at Yale this coming weekend. Cheerleading won the Minisink, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, championship last Saturday. The co-op hockey team are 3-3. The marking period ends next Wednesday, January 20th, and students are finishing up projects and makeup work. And finally, the new semester starts January 21st. We're halfway done.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here from ACE? Nobody who's here from ACE. Okay. Lexi?
So it has been a while since I last had a meeting, since we had a meeting, but I have made a lot of progress at the state with some of the issues we've been discussing. So just to give everyone a general background with what I do, because I do see some new faces here. My name is Alexandra. I am a member of the Statewide Student Advisory Council on Education, which is a body of approximately 20 students or so, and we are responsible for advising the Statewide Board of Education and the governor on educational policy issues from the student perspective. So every month we have a meeting and we talk about some of the issues that are pertinent to all of our local school districts, and we try to give some insight into these issues from the student perspective and from our voice. So one of the things that we've been discussing, or one of the things I've been pushing for, we started talking about this here on the local Board of Education, and we started talking about how the increase in graduation requirements from 21 to 25 might in fact have some financially deleterious consequences on our public schooling system. And this is something that the state is currently looking into. While we didn't have the opportunity to speak to the Commissioner on Education at our last SASE meeting, we later had the opportunity to do so by attending a graduation task force. But even prior to that, we got to speak to the Chief Academic Officer, Mary Ann Butler. And when we started to talk about, well, initially I started to talk about this, how it could be a problem for our schools, how we might not actually be able to afford this. And I was very pleased to see that some of my colleagues in the council also took up on the idea. They immediately started to chime in. And we've concluded that the one-size-fits-all solution to passing graduation requirements might not necessarily be the best option. And we did get to talk about a lot of the unintended consequences of the decision. And I think that it brought to light this issue. And since we also spoke about it during a high school graduation task force meeting, we got our voices heard there. I went and I spoke with about 3 other students. And a lot of the members of the graduation task force said that they would consider this. And now they're even thinking about talking about this with the Statewide Board of Education. So I think one of the biggest takeaways that I will continue to push for is that one-size-fits-all policy might not be the best decision, and it's also been great to see how the student voice can really impact these kinds of issues. We are very pleased to hear from a lot of the members of the Graduation Task Requirements Force that our comments were in fact useful. And they did tell us that, one student talking about this, since we are the consumers of education, does make a particularly significant impact, given that a lot of the times, first-hand experiences really do account for
most of the issues and understanding most of these issues. So hopefully we'll progress on this, and right now some of the members of the Statewide Student Advisory Council on Education are even talking about trying to push an amendment to this 21 to 25 graduation requirement increase, and we hope that the student voice will go far.
Okay, thank you, Lexi. I just need to say something, and it's out of line, but I'm going to say it. These young ladies that just spoke are proud of our school system, and how really proud I am of them. Thank you very, very much. Wow, thanks. And that's a lot of work. What do? Don't get out of here with education. Alrighty, presentation. We have no presentation?
No.
Okay, moving right along. International, action items. We've got items of action. Here we go.
That the Board of Education permit 2015-2016 school year international travel to Europe.
Motion was made and seconded by Mr. Ferguson. I know we've discussed it to death, but is there any discussion? We have any people that need to speak. Go ahead.
So, has there been any other additional updates from the U.S. Travel Department as far as a travel alert, or is it still effective through the end of January?
I believe it was moved with one of the gentlemen from the travel company. Sir, would you like to answer? You're right there.
No.
No.
Yeah, there is still a travel alert in operation for 61 countries in the world, none of them in Europe at the moment. There's no alerts or warning for any country in Europe as of today.
As of today?
As of today, well, I mean, I only checked the day before tonight's meeting. I don't know how long that's not been the case. There are no travel alerts or warning. On the travel government website, it's just a standard warning to everybody travelling full stop. And all the countries listed are nowhere in Europe and nowhere where any of the trips are going to.
Okay. There was a concern earlier when we met in January. Wasn't there a concern? Or not January, December. Wasn't there a ban, not a ban, it was something else?
Travel alert.
It was an alert. That's lifted now, is what I think was the question also incurred.
I'm sorry, I can just about hear you. I do apologise.
We're looking it up here on the internet, so
If
you
you
can
go to
answer the question.
There's still, I believe there's still a worldwide travel alert through February 24th, yes.
That is the reason why you're meeting with that decision today, and you had the workshop
Right,
earlier,
that's what I meant.
so they'd be in a position to make a decision. You want to restate that so that everybody can hear that?
Sure, the U.S. government is still issuing still has in place a travel alert for worldwide travel because what it says current information suggests that ISIL, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and other terrorist groups continue to plan terrorist attacks in multiple regions. The travel alert expires on February 24th, 2016. It's not a warning, it's a travel alert.
But the trips are after the alerts are over, correct?
But there is still an alert. Right.
The trips are all in
The alerts will carry on. In my professional opinion, I've been doing this for 16 years, the alerts will carry on. The warnings are the issue. I believe as of today, you may have access to it, there's 68 countries that have real warnings, shall we say, and none of them are based in Europe or so. The alerts are not going to go away, I don't think, even if it says February 24th.
Just for your information, not to be rude, there shouldn't be a conversation back and forth. Okay?
I apologise.
That's why, no, I know you're trying to help. Well, I'm not trying to be rude.
It's not a.
They're trying to get the same information and not hearing it. You know,
Okay, Richard, did that answer your question?
February 24th, thank you.
Okay, February 24th.
But you called it an alert, correct?
Correct.
And next question, Mr. Janelli.
My question is directed to the gentleman who's in charge of the tour company or teaches or chaperones. In light of
Can I interrupt for a second? If you're gonna do that, I think you need to have the gentleman come up because it needs to get on the tape. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, that's what he wants to do.
I'm not sure who, I mean, basically, it's a general question to those that are responsible for the tour. So it'll be directed to the gentleman who's in charge of the company, any parent or chaperones. The question is as follows. In light of the recent events that happened in Paris, is there anything that has changed or being done currently for this trip to add any additional security, or you changed your methods of tours or the way you handle things with the current situation?
We have not changed anything. I mean, safety is our number one concern. Obviously, we cannot guarantee anyone's safety. We've used the same companies, the same hotels. We have the best insurance policy that's available to any tour company. As I say, we're registered with the government state as part of the STEPS program. We cannot do any more than what we've done to protect the group and students.
Thank you. The gentleman standing here, are you the other gentleman from the other company?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Would you like to add to that?
No, I essentially agree with Noel here on that, is that we haven't changed any of our policies. We're in the same position.
That's all we need. Thank you. Next question. Go ahead. Kelly.
Actually, my question is really to Kim. At this point in time, is there any way that we can disassociate ourselves with this trip? Because I'm not really hearing anything. I mean, we're looking at this from a risk management decision for the district, and what our policy will and will not cover. And I'm hearing that they have a policy coverage. They do have too late in the process to say that this is not a school-sponsored trip, and it is their individual decision.
It's going to be that's going to be a fact-based question. I'm not sure if I can really answer that for you. The factors that would go into a fact finder at some point looking back and trying to make that decision would be, was there a nexus with the school? Where did the meetings happen? Who organized the event? How was the money taken? Did they do fundraising with the school? All those kinds of factors. If we were to stop all that, I suppose we'd have a decent argument to say that we have severed from the group, but it's real hard to predict. It's real hard to predict how a fact finder would weigh all of those things and get that. And I did look at the tour operator did send the policy to me, and they did purchase. I can't see much about it, but I did see that they did purchase part of the exclusion. They tried to buy it back essentially. Where your policy, our general liability policy, has a blanket exclusion for terrorist acts. They do have a policy where they've paid an additional premium to avoid that, but I really don't feel real comfortable giving you advice on the ins and outs of their policy. I've seen some of their documents.
Just as a follow-up question, Larry, let me clarify something from the workshop. If there is a travel alert in place and we travel against it, would that be considered negligence as far as if something happens?
Again, it's going to be a long list of factors, right? So the factors would include, were you on notice? Did you take reasonable precautions to protect against any sort of harm that may come to these students? It's going to be a long list of factors, and that would certainly be one of them. If the government chose to issue a worldwide travel alert, and knowing that alert, you authorized a trip anyway, that would certainly be a factor suggesting that you didn't take as much care as you could have. But it would be balanced among many factors.
Can I come in?
Excuse me, could we just get more questions all out? Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Yes. Well, I was listening to it on all sides, and my understanding is that the alert is really a statement to tell people to be aware of their surroundings, to be aware of what's going on. A warning is to tell people not to travel, or a strong suggestion not to travel. And I have to say, from my personal opinion, after listening to the parents, I mean, some of the parents said that they're not going to send their children, which is their right. More of the parents said that they're going to. I mean, I'm sitting here trying to look at it from our standpoint as a board, thinking that we don't have any more moral authority to tell the people who want to go that they can't than we have the authority to tell the people who don't want to go that they have to. This is a decision that I feel should be made by the parents on an individual basis. If they don't want their kids to go, then they shouldn't go. I think they have to be aware of the circumstances, and I think we've made that abundantly clear. There's been arguments on all sides, but, and I've heard the statement made before too, terrorism's not going away. And that alert is also worldwide. So that means it includes Connecticut, and it includes New York, and it means that we can't let our kids go to the Museum of Natural History, or the Children's Museum in Hartford, or anywhere else. If we're going to start banning trips to one place, then we have to start banning trips every place. And I think that's a big reach. And that's how I feel about the whole thing. It's beyond our scope.
Yes. I have a question for Mr. Ashford. Actually, a couple of questions regarding the insurance policy. First of all, you had mentioned coverage for terrorist events that occur within 30 days of the trip and participants' money being reimbursed. How does that coverage apply to terrorist events as they occur while the participants are away?
I did send through. We are also licensed travel insurance reps. The cover letter that I sent through, I don't know who it actually went to. It explains everything in there. We are covered. God forbid anything should happen while we are away. The insurance immediately kicks in and gets us out of that country by any means of transport that I can find available. So whether we need to get a train to a different country, a bus, obviously our group consists of 39 people at the moment. It's not going to be that easy to get 39 people on a plane, but we can immediately get out of that location by some form of renting a private bus, taking the train to move to a different country.
But beyond, my question is more, well, I mean, that does answer part of it, but the other part is if somebody does get injured while they're away, to what extent does that policy cover that?
The policy covers everything. It's covered up to $250,000 for incident hospital visits. Medevac is included in the policy. If we are in a location that is not deemed as a first-class hotel, our trip is going to Marrakesh in Morocco. At the moment, I was in Marrakesh last week. It's very, very safe. God forbid there should be anything go on or any accident of any kind. The hospitals are not classed as first class. The insurance will kick in and will take any individual or any group, take them across to Spain.
And you mentioned $250,000. What is the amount of total coverage for this policy?
Each student is covered up to $2 million, I believe. But there's different, the cost of, should anything happen while we're on a trip, I've got the policy here, but should anything happen on the trip, everybody is entitled, or we are entitled as a company, to 150% of the total cost of the trip to get those people out of it. So our trip is around $3,000 per person, so we will immediately have access up to $4,500 per person to get them out of that location.
Now, is there an option to increase the coverage for these policies?
We have the best policy in any company of us.
Now, one last question. Is there a policy or a part of the policy that can include coverage for the board and for the district in the event that something happens?
I don't know how public schools work. We do lots of work with private schools, and I know they're totally different from public schools. The private schools, as part of their insurance, they have access to a policy through their insurance agent that costs about $10 per student per year for all their trips. I know private is totally different from public, so I don't know how that works. But every single private school we work with, not only do we include our own insurance policy that we give complimentary, but they are covered by the school as well.
Thank you. Okay, Ralph, and then quick, you're done?
I'm good, yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've asked all of the, oh, I'm sorry, Michael.
I just want to say, I think I bring perhaps a little bit of a different perspective to the whole thing. You know, when the whole process started, I was actually leaning towards canceling the trip, you know, for the reasons of why it came up. But, you know, then I got to actually think about it and study it a little more. And, you know, I'm part of that generation of the who are really going on this trip. It's a different generation. We're a generation that was either born into terrorism or, witnessed, while we were in elementary school or even younger when the events of 9/11 happened. And I'll never forget it, 5th grade. We are shaped by these events. We're shaped by terrorism. We grew up in the age of terrorism, and terrorism, we know, will not defeat us. And so we have to ask ourselves, how much are we willing to dramatically change our life because of global terrorism? I think, to Pat's point, I echo a lot of his statements, which is ultimately it's a parent's decision to send, on a trip like this. And I think, where does this lead us? Does it lead us to canceling all field trips? Are we allowed to go to New York City, to the museums there? Are we allowed to go anywhere? Are we allowed to go down the street on a field trip? Because terrorism can happen anywhere. That's the age we live in. So do we change our lives because of terrorism? We're shaped by it, but do we actually fundamentally change it? And my response would be no, we don't. What we do is we fight it, we beat it, and we win. Because we're the United States of America, we're the greatest country to ever exist on the face of this earth, and terrorism will never defeat us. And so that's why I will vote to keep the trips as scheduled.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to vote. I'd like to, let's individually vote, if it's all right with everybody, so that way there's a record of our names. So if you don't mind starting with Lisa, it's yes or no. Yes to allow or no to not.
I vote yes.
Yes?
Yes in support?
Yes from Holly?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes from her. Go ahead.
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
Yes. All right, the yeses have it. The trips are staying as planned.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming and voicing your opinion. We appreciate that.
And we listen. Thank you. Oh, and thanks all for staying with us. Thanks
for staying.
Thanks so much. There was no ulterior motive whatsoever. Thank you very much. Bye, guys. Oh.
Sounded awful like it.
Come
on now. Come on now.
We have a second going on the report, but I will say to the board, you heard Gary's recommendation in mind, right? Gary Princeton. In the journal right in front of you, Tom Mooney writes an article about international trade. Schools are moving towards severing their relationship with troops. They cannot do it while you've gone through it because the standards that Kim talked about. They found out about our school, our teachers are sponsoring meetings. But if you want us to look in that direction, then we should do it because this spring someone will present to you again for next year. And just for the new board to understand, every time we go through this, we tell parents, when you sign that, you may lose your money and the board may cancel it. You saw what happened tonight, right? So if you're really thinking you don't want to go through this again, I think it was New Fairfield has moved to this, and some other surrounding schools, we could look at that.
And that,
Just let me know.
I personally think that's a wonderful idea, Sal, if you don't mind following up on that. Because the fact of the matter is it doesn't matter whether it's Paris or New York City. I mean, it's all equally as dangerous. And as Michael said, these threats are now part of our life. I mean, it's not going to go away. It doesn't matter whether it's like now in 10 years. It's now. It's everywhere. It's in Sandy Hook, for God's sake. And there's no difference between ISIS and that young man. It's insane. Okay? So please, because the value of traveling is way outweighs everything else. Sorry. according to me. So find out what it's going to take.
Okay. I'm looking at it. But if you take a minute, you might want to look at that journal article that Tom put together. It's our journal.
But then there was a great article in the Wall Street Journal also about the same item. So, and the value of neutrality. And we're moving on with the agenda.
Online registration, middle school. To let you know that we've been working for 2 years. We have Power School, which is our student management system. We have the ability to do scheduling online as well. We're going to begin this year and try with the current 8th grade going to 9th grade, and with the middle school youngsters before we move it into 10, 11, 12, because of the selection for those. 10, 11, 12 is pretty grandiose. So we will, starting on a small scale, see how we can do this registration online. If we can do that, then it's going to make it much more efficient. Give data to parents and kids earlier. Teacher time or counseling time can be used in another fashion. So most of the districts that we've talked to that have a system are using an online registration and working quite well. It's just that we have our high school so large. We've taken on totally. I just don't want to have prices. So that's what we're going to start with this spring. The other thing is, for the past 2 years, our curriculum has been changing, and I meet with the elementary teachers regularly, once a month, and we've been talking about what we're reporting back to parents relative to what was going on in the classrooms and the achievement of the youngsters. So districts around us have been looking at a standard-based report card. It's a whole different format. It's quite different than what we have, but the feeling is that what we have is not really communicating what the youngsters are doing. There are some. We've spent probably about 7 months looking at different formats, and next year we've selected about 3 schools just to pilot it. We don't want to open up to all the schools. Really, that'd be a good idea. But we have 3 schools that have volunteered, actually have some experience with it from previous jobs that they've had administratively. So we think we'll start that next year and take a look at it, evaluate it. It's something teachers have been asking for, administrators feel that it's something to be useful, and they'll also communicate better and clearer, with greater clarity what youngsters are doing in school. C is really a big deal, and I need you to pay attention to this. You've been reading a lot about the opt-out. Last year, by law, we're supposed to participate in 95% of state testing, whatever that state testing is. We did in CMTs, we did on our CAPS, and in the last 2 years, Common Core and a lot of issues got mixed into the value of the assessment and data being sold. For us, as a business decision, we get $2.3 million, $2.4 million a year.
2.6 between the three federal grants.
Currently, we did not meet that standard. Connecticut, as a state, has exceeded the 95% standard. But Danbury has not met it because of the number of students that opt out in one of our middle schools and our high school in particular. They are looking at that fine for this year. I'll repeat that. They're looking at that fine for this year of $2.2 million, of which how much of those involve salaries?
2.1 million.
Yeah. It really will impact us. The state has been phenomenal in trying to argue with us, and I've argued our case. This is not the time to be doing that while we're halfway through the year. Our youngsters are in programs, and you'll be penalizing those most needy because of actions, quite frankly, of parents, not of kids. And I don't think it's fair to penalize our kids for that in our schools. So the state has offered up to the federal government a triage approach. If you hit the 95%, you'll get accommodation. Between 90 and 95, you'll get a letter, and you have to develop a system for remediation. Anything under that, they actually will start looking at taking our funds away. Right? So, and I'm not about to start threatening parents that your kid has to take it. It's the law. You don't have the right, nor do I have the right to exclude a student from following the law. If a parent wants a kid to go on a trip, that's their decision. No matter what. Parent says, I'm not going to have my kid take it, well, that you're right. Now, we're in the business of not trying to punish the kid. We tried not to do that last year. But I will tell you, it's going to really hurt if in fact, our kids do not take it at the same rate. We managed to change the SBAC. The other argument to the feds is that why take a penalty out on the old SBAC when in fact the state of Connecticut has changed the SAT this year. So we think that will remediate some of our problems. The SAT will be given in, I think it's in March, and the state will pay for it. The only difference is it's not the same form that the kids would take a non-Saturday. There isn't the writing component, and that might deter some students from taking it. But all students can take the SAT in the morning, other than the writing, and that information can be sent to the colleges and universities as their schools. We think that will solve some of the problems. I've asked the principals to start running some workshops, talk to parents, to really begin talking about the value of and meaningful the testing. And I will say to you, we've changed our curriculum to reflect the testing. And the reason why we chose the SAT is the SAT is more content-based, more skill-based, kind of like the ACT. So there is a nexus to what we teach, and it is helpful to us. But more importantly, we stand to lose quite a bit of money. The decision is still out for this year. We have not heard from the federal government if they accept the commissioner's proposal of not taking funds away from the district this year. I will let you know as that is developed. But at this point, it's in Washington. They're making a decision. I'm hoping it goes our way. So, D, middle school program review. We have been looking at, the last 2 years, we've been looking critically at our reading program and the success of the reading program. And there are some, we follow the balanced literacy approach in our reading. K-8, we are somewhat concerned about some of the lack of progress in different strands. And we have a group coming from the outside that will be looking at specifically how we're implementing our curriculum and monitoring our curriculum. That will be happening, when is it, Joe? March 1st. There's a team that's coming in. I'm excited about the team because they particularly, they've done some good work in urban districts as ours. They have good experience with ELLs, and I think will benefit by their outside look into what we're doing. In addition to that, I mentioned to the board and the new board members here, we're also having a group look at foundation actually is paying for a study of our administrative structure to see how that's lining up with our curriculum delivery system. So that's happening in a few weeks as well. The new NCLB of No Child Left Behind is called ESSA, or Every Student Succeeds Act. I put in here for you a schematic, and the difference is that it's taking the requirements and saying, here are the requirements, but it's saying to the states, you can come up with a system yourselves, rather than the federal government coming up with a system. And that goes from the assessment piece, how that's used particularly for teacher evaluation, the types of courses that we're expecting students to take, particularly dealing with the STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. But there are a number of things that will exist, but it will exist and it will be operationalized by the state, which is good for us because, as Alexi did say, I think our State Department the past 2 years has really been trying to listen and work with us and come up with sensible ways to implement things and not try to use one approach for everyone. So right now, the waiver that was put in for Connecticut is good till August 1st, and we'll be following that waiver. Our teacher evaluation system and our assessment system aligns itself with that. Any changes will take place for the coming year, but the ESA, or Every Student Succeeds Act, will give us more flexibility. I think that'll be much more helpful. I believe it will. 2021 graduation requirement, you heard what Alexi said. I don't have the same confidence that she has. I've been arguing the money piece with them, and is it sensible to start requiring students to do things that they need last century now? That's when these graduation requirements were put together. What you see and what I put in the packet for you, the committee that I've worked with, a recommendation different alternatives to get to the 25. The reason why they chose 25, Connecticut was below many states in the 21 credits that they were requiring our seniors to have for graduation. In fact, if you look at most high schools, our high school, when we peaked at it, we had all but, out of the 650 kids that graduated, I think only 220 or so had less than the 25. So a lot of our kids are challenging themselves. But that was one reason why the state of Connecticut decided to put that in. Also, they want to keep seniors busy. It makes no sense to me because that's when we want to put kids out and put them in the pathway, career pathways. So the committee is finalizing a report. They extended it 1 month to look at some alternatives how to get to the 25 instead of being so regimented for everybody. So in here, there's some examples that I put aside, we put side by side. But we'll know by, I don't think they're going to waiver the 25. They'll give us an alternative to that 25, and we'll be able to do some different things. You know, just our early college academy could be, we could infringe upon our students getting through because of the way that they're going to regiment their courses if in fact they decide that they have to have it in a certain sequence. The other thing that's happening for Danbury, we're keeping our kids 5 years. We have a lot of ELL kids that are coming in. I'm testifying at the state on Friday. They're not dropping out of school, which is a good thing. Our dropout rate is decreased among those youngsters, but they need more time to get the graduation requirements. Because they're taking the electives, they're conversing with the language, now they're taking the requirements. And, you know, typically they're not in some schools. Right? They're working in some schools. So, I mean, all of this will impact our budgets in terms of offering all these credits to youngsters. So, I'm glad Alexia watched her on TV. She was quite powerful in representing the Danbury point of view. Anything else on graduation requirements? I put the information in for you to read. That'll be helpful. Thank you.
I don't know if you mentioned it or not, on the 95% rule, what percentage are we actually at?
87.
That was the district for the whole district. Yes. If you remove the high school, we're above.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, but that, unfortunately, I tried to sever that. Our high school's not a Title I school. So I said, why don't you just remove them from our Title I and just go evaluate Title I? That's where we want to take the money from. They met the 95 or exceeded it. They didn't buy them. But right now we're under the 95, 8% points. Transportation study. Joe.
Transportation study. In your packet, you'll see a few highlights of the transportation study. So a 25-page document when Mark Walsh came in from Transportation Advisory Services. He reviewed our current bus contract, our current bell schedule, the system we have. As the board knows, we currently have a 4-tier system today, which obviously high school, middle school, and early and late elementary. One of the things he did look at to maximize efficiency was the idea of modeling a 3-tier system. Savings, efficiency, those sorts of things. And what you'll see before you is a sample what that would look like. The positives, there's more efficiency. You'll see better on times for the scheduled buses. I think the growth in the future buses will be less. You would reduce 2 buses right now for $140,000 cost. Downside, you divide your middle schools, which currently are on the same tier. You would actually place elementary school students waiting for a bus at probably 6:45, 7 o'clock. You'd restructure bell schedules on 10 of your 17 schools. The times, I also use, kids don't get home any earlier. You'll still have, in a sense, a 3:30 or so dismissal. So no, it's not a case you're going to kids getting home earlier, so weather-related delays, it's not going to change that at all. I think overall there's a lot of good findings related to the contracting report, a lot of changes he wants to see us do when we negotiate the next contract with STA. As far as related to the bell times, I don't necessarily think of setting times on 10 schools, moving west side to that first tier, putting elementary school kids on a 6:45, 7 o'clock time. I don't think it's worth the savings of 2 buses. As much as $120,000 is worth a lot to the board, changing those times in 10 schools is really significant. I think it's going to impact parents significantly. I could pursue it further with the consultant as far as additional scenarios with the bells. I don't necessarily think you're going to have a lot more reduction in buses. But I wanted to bring at least this piece of the report forward to the board, because obviously, if we wanted to pursue it, we'd have to, in a sense, begin the process, start talking to parents of the schools, those sorts of things. Other than that, highlights of the report are kind of all normal things. We can see we should have cameras on our buses. When you did your bus contract, in a sense, 10 years ago, cameras were very expensive. Today, they're not. We should go to 77 passenger buses. We currently have 72s. We should have undercarriage storage like you see on some of your land jet buses. There's some buses now that have that for your football teams when they travel. So you might only need one bus for a tournament as opposed to two. Those sorts of things will gain you small efficiencies. Good report. Staffing they're concerned about. I mean, we currently obviously have one transportation coordinator that runs the district, Melanie Lucas. Typically, most districts our size run two. So that was a concern there as they highlighted in the report. But overall, a lot of positives to what we're doing, but particularly the Bell system was at least one scenario they gave us. Kind of take that issue well.
Did the 77 seat buses wind up in an overall savings of like taking a bus out of the system, or?
Hard to say now. I think some of our downtown runs are very heavy. We do see those very high utilization on some of those downtown. At times those have like two stops. It's like two bang, 35. So I think it will help some. I don't think it's going to help a lot. The problem right now in your current tier is it's very tight on schedule. You're 25 minutes between each tier. So to repurpose your buses, it's very hard to get buses back in position to pick up those runs. So in a sense, like some of the West Side buses, in a 4-tier day, they might only have 2 schools they service. Where if you had more time between them, that bus will be able to hit all 3 schools on a tighter tier. But West Side would go into that morning tier. The early elementaries would be very early. I'm not necessarily positives, always negatives.
Yeah, I'm good. I would be really concerned about putting our kids out there too early and disturbing the whole district for $140,000. I think I could get them a different way. But the other parts of the study were pretty valuable.
Yeah, the contract pieces are key because as I was notified finance last night, we are in the last year of our bus contract, so we'll be renegotiating or bidding that contract out. We are going to at least entertain conversations with STA. This will help us dovetail the new contract, which is great because Mark does this for a living, so he does bidding and contracts, so it's actually very helpful. The study really wasn't $16,000 for the study, so overall the information we got back on a $6 million contract is invaluable.
How is the app coming?
GPS is coming along. We actually got a first round of training. Our side is functioning. Yesterday we canceled early with the quote-unquote snow we got, and I was able to see all the buses. And on the app we can actually see any buses tagged in red or driving over the current posted speed limit. So we could see all that stuff on our side right now. The parent app is going to be a few more weeks getting more things configured. Melanie Lucas is getting training. Also, there's work that STA has to do. For example, if bus 2 goes out of service, if we don't make the change in the system, the parents won't get any updates because bus 2 will be sitting in the garage getting service. So there's some logistics there we have to work out. So my hope is early February we'll see that app come online.
That's why we haven't had any delays.
That's why, because the app's not up yet, so we have delayed.
It's still spring.
Just on the contract, you say it's in the last year, does it start over in September or the following September?
The following September. So we're on the 4th year, next year we're the 5th year of the contract. So we're a 2.5% increase next year.
And just one other thing. I don't know if the study found this, but has there ever been discussion to house the transportation coordinator at the bus company?
Yes, and I will tell you what Mark told me. Fox and Henhouse. We trust STA immensely, but in a sense, you could come back with, oh, we can't make that work, we need 2 more buses. And Melanie and I typically will shake that down. We need a bus. I mean, I won't put that bus until November. We'll run that thing as long as we can. So that they typically have said that to us. Everyone runs their own for in-house schedule. That is pretty typical because that is our check and balance. I mean, Mel is the front line. I'm in a sense the second line for that. But yeah, that's the savings in moving that slide over won't be much.
But it wouldn't be so much savings, it would be communication.
Yeah, I mean, we do go back and forth with them on things, but I mean, we in a sense have jurisdictional routes and all that stuff, so it's, there's some give and take that happens there all the time, so it's a lot of pushing and shoving. But I shouldn't say, STA is good to work with, I'm not saying that. But, you know, that's, I think it gives us some jurisdiction over the system in a sense.
Anybody else with a question? Thank you, Joe. Next, Mr. Dr. Pascal.
Space audit.
We spoke to the facilities committee tonight, kind of learning more of the issues we have going on at Shelter Rock. Currently, the current enrollment where it sits today, just to kind of simplify things, we have kindergarten and first grade currently have 5 sections of K and 1. We do see a bubble forming at Shelter Rock where we do see follow through for students going behind that. Right now, we currently don't have any additional classroom space at that school. So if we continue to see class sections running at 5 across, we really will run out of space there. Redistricting isn't an option because you really are out of space at all your schools. We redistrict, we have 18 classrooms to move kids into. We don't have that space anymore. So Dr. Sally and I are exploring the idea of modulars out at Shelter Rock. We do think there is some room on the blacktop off the gymnasium right now. We could do a 4-pod modular, which in a sense will alleviate the issues there. The board wouldn't have to go through redistricting. Cost-wise to the city, we've got $500,000–600,000. We are working with the city now. There's some funding in a grant process, we think, but Dr. Sally and I are exploring our options there.
Even if we were to redistrict, there's nowhere to put the kids.
You need at least 6 open classrooms in a school to redistrict, because when you grab streets, you know, they come with K to 5 kids, so you can't necessarily cherry pick certain kids that you want to put in there, so it doesn't work. Budget. We presented to the Finance Committee the operating budget for 16-17. I'll do a full presentation to the board at our next meeting. I do have the current handout I can certainly share with folks that weren't at the meeting.
How many didn't get the budget? In your packet, there's just, we had to update some regulations. Board policy was fine. And our nurse, the head nurse is here, but they're just regs that we had to update in there for you. We revised the ed specs briefly. The board approves the specifications on the building that you want to build. The city then is charged with building on those specifications. We submitted our specs to the city a while ago, and they were approved. But since the architecture rendering, we want to move some of the classrooms around. To do that, the board has to vote on modifying the specs by state law. So they're in here for you to look at. Ostensibly, we've taken the top floor, the 3rd floor, and we've eliminated some of the labs and art rooms and kilns because our students will be taking art and our lab for computer labs, most of them are cows or computer on wheels. We really don't have the static computer rooms as we've had in the past when they were looking at it. So we modified that. We gained a few more rooms. The bottom floor with the gymnasium, we altered the floor of the gym so it's multi-purpose texture, much like the cafeterias in the elementary schools, so that it's multi-purpose if we have to use it as a cafeteria. We already have 3,500 students there. But we gained a few classrooms by doing that. And when they put the original specs together, there wasn't the building of the new arts complex. That's going to add a few classrooms for our music and
to our black box.
The black box, I mean. So to make those modifications, only you can make them. And we'll make them at the next board meeting as a motion. Let's see what's here. We had some vandalism at the middle school, right, the first day returning from the AIS, no, I'm sorry, not AIS, over at West Side, through one of the windows. Someone removed the air conditioner, went in, alarms went on, they got out. Nothing we found was damaged.
Took the air conditioner out of the window, that was it.
Yeah. So, it's good news for that. And then negotiation, James, is something we might be working on, right?
I have a lot of revenue numbers.
Yeah, would you do that for us?
Yeah. The AIS lottery opened on January 1st. Currently, we have 664 applications. We did have actually 818 total, but there was duplicate applicants, so you're only allowed to apply once. So 664. We have 573 from Danbury so far, 16 from Brookfield, 17 from New Fairfield, 4 from Newtown, 4 from Reading, and 34 from New Milford.
You want to reread those for me?
Sure.
I didn't quite get it.
573 from Danbury, 16 from Brookfield, 17 from New Fairfield, 4 from Newtown, 4 from Reading, 34 from New Milford, and 16 from what are called non-compacts. We don't, those like Southbridge, people don't participate directly.
Just for the board's information, the assembling policy did not go into place with this group nor next year's group as well. So the next two groups that enter, that does not apply to them, just so you know. Just wanted to put that on the table for you at this point.
Anything else on information? There's the regulations for the health policy. Read through them. Kevin, thanks for being here. If they have questions, they can contact you. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. And that's it. Right? All right, moving on. I handed out the what we're doing. Does everybody agree with it? The one change that is taking place in finance, and I'll take care of it this week. And all the schools that were read, we straightened it out because there was some kind of consternation about it. All right? The C was right. Michael Ferguson, you have Danbury High School. And where? And King Street? Okay, and King Street. All right, I have a simple, Broadview Middle School is Kathy Molinaro, and Rogers Park Middle School. Anytime you feel that you want to jump into one of these schools, jump in. I need somebody for AIS. Okay, Fred just volunteered for AIS. Got it. Who else would have the Great Plains schools? Ralph? I need somebody for Haystown. Fred's going to do that. Hey, Fred, you're wrong way. It's not raising your hand. Okay. Michael Ferguson has King Street and primary and intermediate. Okay. Millbridge Primary. Holly Dyson has a child there. Oh, so does David. Okay, so the two of you can do it. We have David and there you go.
Dave, we haven't spliced the leg. No, you haven't lost this one yet.
That's okay.
We're only halfway through the school year, though.
We have Morris Street School with Richard Janelli. Richard Janelli is doing Park Avenue and Pembroke, and he's been talking, I think, so he's not hearing me say all that, and so we'll continue with that. Got it all? We're back on it? Okay, here we go. Gladys, you had asked about this. I have you down for Shelter Rock and South Street. Is that all right with you? Yes. No, they're right there. It says one is the third Monday, and the other is the first Tuesday. So they never clash. Okay. Savvy Rough is done by Mr. Patrick Besson himself. And, that's what you also do. Yes, citywide. Okay. And Westside Middle School Academy is Mr. Johnston. No, I don't. Does anybody know where anything's up by that?
Thursdays.
Westside Middle School, when is the
Thursdays.
It's the first Thursday of every month.
First Thursday of every month. Thank you. Apparently, you didn't have that.
No, it's okay.
Thursday of each month. Okay. This year, if everybody could prepare a small report on what goes on in their PTOs, so that we know what they're doing. We're also going to meet at different schools. Sal and I are working that out. I will work with principals and everybody else. Alrighty, it's not just, okay. Alright, these people got to read this. I've been here forever, since the beginning of time, except Gladys, she's the only person who's been here longer. And so, this is the first time I ever got a series of cards. mailed here, I'm sorry, a series of cards mailed. So I'm going to read them because these people read them over here. I think it's, okay, dear Board of Education members, thank you for the opportunity to use the new MacBook Air. Thank you for the many, many hours each of you have spent working to provide the best education possible for the students in our district. Sincerely, Mary Meyer, Physical Education, Shelter Rock School. Your tireless service is greatly appreciated. I think that's nice. Well, I've never actually got one. I mean, people approach you, but I've never seen it. Okay, Board of Ed members, thank you for your kindness. Thank you very much for our new computers. They're wonderful and they have made our job so much better. Thank you. Kathy Murder, Easttown Avenue School. It's just so great. So that's good. Anybody else? Where? Oh, Mr. Johnston.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, Mr. Johnston, you did, oh, I'm sorry, Pat.
I received a email from one of the teachers at Moore Street School who asked me to let everyone know on a nice note in the community that Tom Young from Moore Street School sent over that after the breakfast with Santa at Moore Street School on Saturday, December 12th, over 80 teachers, volunteer students, and parents walked several blocks from the school to sing holiday songs to a young boy who should have been in Anne Marie Longest's kindergarten. He has been unable to attend because of ongoing treatments for leukemia. So I just wanted everyone to know that the whole group of 80 of them went down, which is a very, very nice gesture. My understanding is he's very, very ill. Thank you.
Does anybody else have anything they want to say? No?
Motion to move into executive session?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much, those of you who stayed to the very end.